friends, I'm your host, Ed Santos, and this is Let's Talk Holy Eucharist, the show where I have the privilege to sit down with one of our amazing priests or deacons, or maybe even a few surprise guests, to talk about the questions you sent in on topics such as Catholicism, or the diocese, or maybe even our church practices. It is our hope that through these talks, we might be better able to grow in our faith and fellowship. So what do you say? Grab your favorite cup of coffee or tea, and let's talk Holy Eucharist. Hello, friends. So this week we're going to follow up with Deacon Bob regarding his trip to Haiti and learn about what his experiences were, what challenges there might have been, and what rewards came from such a mission. So at this time, join me in welcoming Deacon Bob Hamilton.
Good morning, Ed.
Hey, Bob. How'd it go in Haiti? Tell us all about it.
It was, I think the only expression I could say is mind-blowing.
Really?
It's mind-blowing. From the people that you meet, from the accommodations that you have, to the way that people live, to the fact that the weather's so different. It's like being on a different planet to me. It's almost like that different.
I can only imagine. But before we get into the specific details of what transpired when you got there, tell us a little bit about, from the beginning, about when you got to the airport here in Philadelphia, how that process was for you. Because I'm sure our viewers are curious to know, especially with the world being the way it is now, what that experience was like to finally get you to Haiti. What was that like?
All right, there were 5 of us flying from Philadelphia, and we arrived, and the flight was 6 a.m. So we arrived before 4 a.m. and the airport's not really open before 4 a.m. So
right.
Although the doors are open, you got nobody to talk to. So one of the things about the mission is getting supplies there. So school supplies and soccer balls, which are very popular, are shipped in advance. And we had I think 7 or 18 cases of those things, big cardboard boxes wrapped in tape.
And that was a checked luggage?
No, they're shipped in advance.
Oh, okay.
So solar lights are more expensive to ship. So they're in our packed luggage. So you have 2 suitcases, 2 giant suitcases. He gets volunteers to give away old suitcases, and they're filled with solar lights. And so you check those in. So fortunately, when we got there, and the attendant finally arrived at 4 a.m., he was ready for us, and we didn't have enough bags. There were too many bags. You couldn't take this. So we were repacking solar lights all over the place. But it's exciting even from then. There's nobody in the airport, and there's a lot less travel these days. So all the flights were pretty simple. The flow was good. Only the flight back from Florida to Philadelphia was kind of full, but still there was enough space.
So when you finally arrived into Haiti, was there someone there to meet you and greet you there, or you guys had to?
Well, no. Father Evans, our leader, he's from Haiti, and he's a Camden Diocese priest over in at St. Teresa of Calcutta in Westmont. He's been doing this since the earthquake in 2010. In fact, he started a couple months after the earthquake, and then every year since. So as he's moved parishes, he's accumulated more people who go and who work behind the scenes to pull this all together. He's probably got about 25 volunteers altogether that make these missions happen. The only year it didn't happen was last year because of some social unrest early in the year, and then the pandemic that shut all the travel down.
Oh, okay. So once you arrive there and you start heading off to, to the church, right? Is it a specific church?
So we arrive in Port-au-Prince, and you know how in all airports when you're going through customs, you got to go through all these long corridors. So we're in the first corridor, and people stop us, take our passports, and we go down the steps. We get in a vehicle on the airport lot, and we drive across the airport to what I call the Casablanca house. It's got all kinds of beautiful flowers. It's air conditioned. It's got a bar. It's got drinks. It's got comfortable seating. This is where they send the diplomats. So it was pretty cool. And then they get our luggage, and it was just pretty substantial. There were 5 of us. There were 10 very large bags of solar lights. Put that in vehicles, and then you drive with flashers on around to the other side of the airport, and you take a very small plane over the mountains to the city of Jacmel.
Oh, so you had to actually get onto another aircraft.
Get on another plane, right?
Interesting.
So you pack that up. And in fact, the pilot was a son of missionary, so he gets on. He says, "Can we pray?" He said, "I think that's good for our group." So it was beautiful. It was a beautiful flight. you end up in the Jacmel Airport, which is one way, one little building, and then you're off to the races.
This wasn't one of those planes you see in the movies where it's just a prop plane.
It was a prop plane.
It's missing a door.
It wasn't missing a door. It had all the stuff. I got to sit in the co-pilot seat.
Oh, really?
So it was interesting to be able to lolook out over everything and be able to we'll talk back and forth with the pilot on occasion.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. It's only like a 20-minute flight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So when you get there, this is now your final destination, I imagine, right?
Yeah, well, that's right. We get to the airport, and then you start to see. Well, I mean, then you're flying over, and you start to see the kind of places people live in, which is kind of shocking.
That's the moment where reality sets in.
That's where it starts to set in, yeah. And you're thinking about safety, because Haiti is currently a Class 4 country on the State Department list, so it says don't go there. So it was a little bit of concern, but we had security. One of the Father Yvonne's knows everybody. I think he knows everybody in the whole island. But so we had 4 young men who accompanied us everywhere, and one of them was our security person, one of the drivers, and then we had 3 young women who worked in the house where we stayed. We stayed in Father Yvonne's house, which is beautiful. He's been working on it for like 12 years. It's not entirely done, but beautiful tile floors, well painted. Everything was comfortable. One of his things is he wants his missionaries to be well fed and well slept, so that you can fully encounter the people and what God has for us as we go there.
So talk to us about the encounter.
So I think it's putting the two things side by side. You're in a house that's beautiful. All the nice houses, in fact, many of them aren't so nice. All the property is surrounded by an 8-foot concrete wall with a large metal gate that you can't see through. Many of the nicer houses have razor wire around the top of those things. It's all padlocked in and out. Security cameras, so there is a sense of maybe you need to take extra steps than you do in Cherry Hill. But you're also reminded that although everything is beautiful, you're in a third world kind of country. You're definitely in a third world country, because the electricity, which is available in his house, is only there about 12 hours a day. There's a generator. You don't have hot water. The water pressure is very low. The windows are always open. There's no air conditioning. So you hear the roosters at 4 o'clock in the morning. And then we talked about the neurotic rooster in our neighborhood, because he went off every 5 minutes after that. And he'd wake up the neighborhood dogs. There's a lot of dogs and goats that all run free. So the sights, the sounds, the temperature, it's beautiful temperature, 72 at night and 84 in the day. And it's like that just about every day.
What was the reception from the locals when you all arrived?
Well, the people who were volunteering and working with us were wonderful, and many of them had been working with Father Yvonne's before. When you arrive there on Monday night, that's kind of pretty much a debrief kind of evening, and you have a beautiful meal. He's a wonderful host, so the food was delicious and it was all safe to eat. You can't drink the water, but you could eat all the produce and the vegetables. So he has, cloth napkins and cloth tables, tablecloths. A very, very, very wonderful host. Then in the morning on the first day, really, we were only there for 3 days of mission, because Monday was a travel day and Friday was a travel day. So Tuesday we went to a church, to a school, which is a very popular destination. And there are, although it's a public school, it's run by the nuns. So there's a giant crucifix on the front of the building. And I'll share with you a video of how they welcomed us. 730 students, and they all wear uniforms, different uniforms based upon ages. And they sang us a song in English to welcome us. And then they sang, there's a new, a very popular viral video called Jerusalem, which is from South Africa, and it's done by a bunch of different people. So they did that little routine. Because of COVID, we couldn't get close to the students. So although it's hand-to-hand mission, which is wonderful, because for all the wonderful donations that we got from Holy Eucharist and some people at work, we were able to feed a lot of people. I'll talk about that. But you get to see it. Your money, you gave me $23 for a family or whatever it was, and here's a picture of the people that got the money. So it's not like you sent your check into this, ether. Right. And then expected most of it got to somebody. That money went directly to an account, which was used to buy the supplies, which we separated and placed in the bags, and then gave to people. So we went to the school, and since we couldn't we couldn't give the hand things out by ourselves. The older students went to the backs of the vehicles and they took out the school supplies and solar lights and handed them to the younger students, and it was very orderly. The only thing that's not orderly and is when you bring out a soccer ball. So social distance evaporates very quickly when a child sees a soccer ball, and there aren't a lot of them in Haiti, and we had several hundred of them. So Father Yvonne's kind of looks like the Pied Piper when he pulls one out, and then the children just flock to him, and he's trying to keep them a little bit of distance. And then, the 5 soccer balls fly out into the courtyard, and the kids are playing, and it's just a moment of wonderful joy. Then in the afternoon, because of the generosity of Holy Eucharist, we were only going to be able to feed about 20 families this year, so it wasn't really a major part of the mission. But because we had so much money, we packed bags for about 500, and that is a tremendous amount of work. Absolutely. So with the 4 young men and the 5 of us, it was pretty much 5 or 6 hours on Tuesday afternoon, evening, and 5 or 6 hours on Wednesday afternoon, evening to take the food. So when we left, we visited a couple places on Tuesday, and then we went into town, the city of Jacmel. And there's a Wawa. It's nice. It's air conditioned. It's got everything very neat and orderly. You can get a sandwich, and the sandwiches were delicious. And there's a guy out front with a shotgun, and there's a guy inside with a shotgun. And they let us in because, well, you're from America. We don't have any worry about you guys. So it was really neat. And then you go into the city itself, which was at one point a long time ago a tourist destination. So you can kind of see where that might have been the case. There's a boardwalk, and there are the houses in the city are relatively, you can see where they might have been really nice at one time. And then you go to this food distributor, and you're getting all the supplies. So you take all the space that was emptied out from the solar lights and the soccer balls and the school supplies, and you're loading it up with rice and beans and oil, cases of oil. And it was just a huge amount of work. The young men in the store, we call it that, they'd come out with 3 of these bags. They're 55 pounds each. Wow. On their shoulders, and they're popping them in. And when the roads are interesting in Haiti, because there's really only one major paved road across where we were in Jacmel. It goes across the southern part of the island, across the ocean. It's a beautiful view. But there's a lot of traffic, and there aren't any cars, because cars can't really navigate the roads that come off of the main road once you're out of the city. So it's SUVs and trucks and things like that. But they're outnumbered about 10 to 1 by motorbikes. So the cars or the vehicle traffic pretty much stays on the right, like we do in the US. Right. But the motorbikes go wherever they want, where there's space. So they're flying about. There's never more than, it seems like, 10 feet between a vehicle on the side, in front, and back. You think there's going to be an accident every 15 minutes. When you see somebody in front of you going a little slow, you go around the traffic, into the oncoming traffic. They slow down, they move around, they go here. Wow. You might go up like 30, 35 miles an hour for 40 seconds or a minute. And then it's slow down to a stop, go through the ruts and the potholes, and then around the crevices, and then you go back up again. And all the traffic moves, and it never stops. It just completely goes. And people seem pretty polite about it. You don't see a lot of inappropriate gestures right. or angry drivers. They're all just waiting, and it all flows very smoothly. But then we took the food back to his house, back into the compound, and you start separating the rice into big bowls, and then putting it in the grocery bags, putting the beans in grocery bags, and then putting them in the bags that you kind of use, the reusable bags used in the grocery store. And we had hundreds of them. I'll send you some pictures. And then you store them in one place. It's got a nice house, but it's the house. So sure. You had plenty of school supplies and solar lights and soccer balls, and then food stored all over the place. And then you load it into the vehicles the next morning. And then we went to his hometown, or his home village where he grew up. And it is amazingly poor. There's a church. There is no other infrastructure. There are little concrete buildings or lean-tos, cloth things. There's no running water, there's no electricity, nothing like that. You have to be careful a little bit with the food, because if the food runs out before the people do, then it can get pretty tense. But we went by 2 days, so the first day was pretty pretty quiet. And then we went back, bought more of the food, packed more bags. We had mass every day. We had another beautiful meal in the evening. And then, so the first 2 days, and this is something I would love other people go, it's a wonderful experience because you're comfortable. And Father Vons is a wonderful host, and you're safe because of all of the precautions. So it's almost like the first 2 days, it felt like a poverty tourist. It's a crass term. But you're snapping pictures and you're having an experience. And it could be, going to the Louvre or to the Grand Canyon. They're memories that affect you and stay with you. And although those other kinds of touristy things are wonderful experiences, they don't touch you spiritually like you do when you're seeing how people live. It just seems unfair. When I came back, people said, "Do you feel so grateful for everything you have here?" I said, "I just kind of feel kind of angry and sad that people live that way." So on those first 2 days, I felt sort of a little bit detached. But then we went back the next day to that same village, and Father Vons held back a few bags. And he said, "I just want to deliver these because these people probably can't quite get to the church." And he invited me. We stopped about 100 yards away from the church, and he stopped and invited me to go through with this little hole in the wall. And you see this man, he looked like about 80, and he's all hunched over, and he looked like he weighed about 80 pounds. And you give him, and you see the gratitude in his face for the bag of food, which was probably 25 pounds. And you see the little concrete building he lives in with just a hole cut out for a door, no windows, and some blankets on the ground. And it's the first time I really connected, the kind of the hovel with the person who lives there. And you feel like my heart kind of cracked open. And then I went back to the van, and we left the door open. So it was me and Deacon Craig Bickle, who was with us, who's been there several times, are in the back of the van. And Marie, who's a native of Haiti, who has come back from a life in the United States to live there. A man came up and showed his beautiful daughter to Marie, and they have a conversation in Creole. So he left, and he left as I was coming back. So I get into the back seat with Craig, and Craig's expressing, "Well, I guess that's interesting. He's so proud of his daughter." And she said, he wasn't showing off his daughter. He wanted us to take her. I wasn't even there for that exchange, but just to hear those words and to think about the desperation that a father would feel that he's going to trust his daughter to strangers who are compassionate and more affluent than he is because he can't take care of her. And she said her mother had raised several children that were given to her like that. And you have this aching in your heart that we have to do more. We have to do more. After that, we got to see the Felician sisters, who are super dynamic, and they have built a tremendous facility. They have a sewing machine, and they have a little computer lab, and they have a dispensary for medicines. They have 28 mobile clinics, which is pretty much the healthcare in the hills. And they explained, it was great to hear the story of how they get things and how they get things accomplished. Just amazing grace of God that puts them there and gives them their success. So we went to Bishop, which we saw his place where he lives, and the man who turned the kind of a desert when it was purchased 30 years ago into a kind of an Eden of trees and a bee farm and chickens and pheasants and not pheasants, but peacocks roaming around. You see the tremendous spirituality. So coming back it's surreal. So to me, I feel like you have all this, what life is like here, and I do. When you come back, you notice I can make the water temperature in my shower, which comes out very, very, very firmly. I can make it within 1 or 2 degrees of what's comfortable for me. And then I've been in a place where people don't have any running water whatsoever, and I can't even drink it, but they do. Those kind of experiences. We had a meeting last night because since I talk about this, I've had a person say, I think I can get sewing machines donated. And somebody else said, I had a meeting yesterday and someone said, I want to go with my husband next year. And so I think that if we can do more trips and we can get sewing machines, I know the Felician sisters are building our plans and are in the process of building a bakery. People can have local bread and maybe something they can afford. That we can build some economy, that's more sustainable. And then last night, Father Vaughn said, hey, I'm going again in August. Who wants to go? We'll go. And we'll do another mission. So it's deeply affecting. And it's a wonderful experience that I will definitely do again.
What is the faith culture of the people in Haiti?
Well, you have voodoo and you have Catholicism. So I think it's about 50-50. So it was a Catholic church. We had a priest that went with us, which was helpful because some of the areas where, he's there all the time. So they may not know Father Bonds as well. We stopped at a lot of schools. So, and many of them hadn't been on the radar before. So it was Father Bonds would go in and talk to the principal, and then they would come out and get school supplies and soccer balls.
Yeah.
So, but seeing the schools, they're all the kids wear uniforms, even in the public schools. But kind of looks like when you look at the classrooms from the outside, they look like animal pens, and there's just like slats where the air comes in and out, but they're pretty dark inside, and they have usable equipment, usable desks, and things like that. But just everything else is dirt, and rocks, and when you get off those main roads, if you don't have an SUV or some kind of a motorbike or bicycle, you're not getting through it. And that's where people live.
So the biggest takeaway for you, not so much as a deacon, not as a person of faith, but as a human being, what is the biggest takeaway that you got from this mission?
That there's just tremendous inequity in the world. I know Haiti suffers from political dysfunction, and there's a lot of poverty in the islands around there anyway, and they don't have tourism because of the corruption and because of the lack of stability and safety at this point. It's just that it's not right. It's just not right. People live this way. And then as an affluent person, coming from a place where I take for granted so many things, just think about how many layers of organization and competence you have to have running water in a house that goes to the second floor, where it's safe to drink, electricity that works all the time, roads and systems and government and police and municipalities and waste removal. There's no trash cans in Haiti. Trash is everywhere. All those things build up to a life that we just live every day without thinking about. And then we need to do more to help people to get out of the situations that are subhuman.
So for our viewers, is there anything that you'd like to share directly with them to tell them what they could do, how they could help support the people of Haiti or anywhere in the world that find people of need?
Well, first I want to say gratitude once again, because we raised like $4,600 from the parish in a weekend where there really wasn't many people coming. Right? So there's a lot of people from Venmo. I think one of the things that's wonderful about the mission is that you see it. Right? If you see the money goes here and the food goes there, and it's hand to hand. So we'll be doing this again. So please be generous again. If you feel like God is in any way putting on your heart to make a trip like this, you pay your own expenses. I think it was between the flights and the expenses during the week, it's maybe $1,700, something like that, which is less than a typical vacation. But it's a wonderful experience to have. It's wonderful for the people who are there to see that there are people in more affluent places that care about them. We had a little dinner on Thursday night, and the volunteers from Haiti could not believe that we came. They said with all what's going on in the world with COVID and with the instability there, that we were really going to come. And it's just an amazing experience. It's a lifetime, once in a lifetime or more experience that I advise anybody to do who feels like it. And there are things, other places. I'm also with work, I'm going to go to Africa next summer. So that's another, with Urban Promise from Camden. So get involved, do what you can. You have sewing machines and notions and things like that, I'm going to contact the sisters because they're back in the United States, because they had to come back to the United States because the United States is now restricting access from other places or making it more difficult to get into the country without a short-term COVID test. So we're going to maybe visit them in March and see, how we can help, people in any condition to improve and to become more sustainable and to build some of those things that we take for granted.
Do you know of any either online sites that folks can go to and see information about Haiti's needs?
Well, you can just Google Haiti, but we know we do fair trade, or at least when there's not COVID, we have fair trade on the third Sunday of the month, which is great. 10,000 villages, so there's ways to make money, purchase things. Haiti is an exporter of clothing. That there are ways to get your money to those specific places where, or any poor country. So I would say, where you spend your money, where you donate your money, and then how you spend your summer vacation or your winter vacation. Those are all wonderful ways. Prayer, obviously,
sure,
great. So all those different aspects. But listen to the Holy Spirit and follow the yearnings.
So at the end of this video, please stay tuned, because we will share with you some images and some video clips from Deacon Bob's trip to Haiti, so that we together can see firsthand the impact and the good works that Deacon Bob and the group all shared with the people of Haiti. So Deacon Bob, words cannot express how much I appreciate all that you do in the name of God, in the name of people in need. It's a true testament of your personal character, your spiritual character, and I hope that through your experience, many of us here that are watching, hopefully all of us here that are watching, can learn from you, gain a true experience, and inspire us to take these very huge steps in support of our neighbor as God's call.
I just wanted to add one more thing. I am so blown away by the generosity of the parish in supporting the mission. And some of the pictures that you'll see are from that church. And I sat there because we couldn't give the food out ourselves. And I sat there and I watched the people getting that food. And I said, without that collection, we weren't even coming to this church. And those people had that food because of the generosity of the people of Holy Eucharist. So I am exceedingly grateful.
Absolutely. And with that, we've come to the end of this episode. I want to thank you once again, Deacon Bob, for joining me, sharing this important mission with us, and representing our parish and our faith. Join us next time as we continue to journey together to a better understanding of our faith and love of Christ. Until next time, always remember, Jesus loves you, and so do I. God bless.